Hello, welcome to Freedom March. Thank you so much for joining us. Happy Friday. Welcome to 103.5 FM The Beat, or Channel 224, or Channel 112, or ILTV Studios over on Facebook. I'm wearing new paraphernalia today. Let me see if you can see that. I'm actively recruiting FNAs. Why? Because I see that PLPs are beginning to defect, and not just PLPs, white PLPs. And so, by the time as I'm done, we should have black FNAs, light-skinned FNAs, and if we play our cards right, I might even have a white FNA. I see the Member of Parliament for South Abaco is getting coal heaped on the top of his head. I don't know whether that's going to turn out to be a good thing or a bad thing, but time will tell. The people of South Abaco are saying that they don't want no more of John, who's from Oaktown, because John from Oaktown didn't deliver to the people of Cherokee. And so to the people of Cherokee, I say, all you have to do is get rid of John as a PLP, and then we can bring him back as an FNA, and you should love him. Because this time, he won't be a PLP, he'll be a white FNA. And so that's what I want to do, hopefully. I'm actively recruiting them, so wherever you go. I saw two people in my neighborhood today that told me, Mr. Miller, I am an FNA. I met Idris Miller yesterday. I'm still trying to win her over to be an FNA. There was two young ladies that I met up on top of the hill at Gladstone Road. They have pledged to me that they are FNAs. And so all over the country, the movement is taking foot. And the FNAs are beginning to grow in number. Human Menace, you should come now before we stop recruiting people, and then you have to go be an FNA by yourself. You might as well come over here and be with us so that we all can be one bunch of FNAs together, and then we could take the opposition from the FNM. And when they ask us, why are we busy being FNAs, we could tell them, because they wouldn't let us be FNMs. And so, we are the FNA because they don't want us to be FNM. And I think that's a wonderful reason to be an FNA. And to the lady in Batelco today who pledged that she too is an FNA, I say, I see you, and I thank you for becoming an FNA. All over this country, I want FNAs to join me as the leader of the FNAs. Thank you so much for staying with us. Welcome back to Freedom March. I'm Levin Miller, and I'm actively recruiting. No, that doesn't work. There it is. FNAs, spiritual advisor. And so you're welcome to be a spiritual advisor, Bradley. An FNA spiritual advisor. Bradley Roll is joining me in studio. Spiritual advisor. Before we get started, though, I want to say I know it's Friday. You all are going to your happy hour spots. In case I miss you all before the end of the show, please, man, do every single thing in your power not to add to or take away from the population this weekend. Whereas you all get actively engaged in your hooliganism, do me that one favor, all right? Help me and Shanta Knowles out. And you all don't touch the population count. All right? Spiritual advisor?
Good afternoon, Levan.
Happy Friday.
I see you dividing the people, man.
Which people?
This is the time now when people should be galvanizing. We got an election that's just about a year away. Or less.
May 5th. Michael Bendad did say September. And the wind tell me of a very interesting reason why he thought it was going to be September. But I have to go and turn my next ears to the wind to see when the wind blow from the next direction.
September or October may not be bad, you know. Because look at the scenarios. The summer will be basically over.
What that means?
It won't be too hot for people to line up to vote.
Who you know is check for that?
The summer, yeah, if it's hot, people ain't.
No, man. Mama them must come out there on a walking cane to come
So, January, February, March.
May 5th.
April. No, you can't. They'll never do it during the Easter holiday.
Right, so that take March and April out to count.
I don't think they'll ever do it then. March, April,
May 5th, I tell you when.
May. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, May 5th. Or May 15th.
You have an election budget that they're working on. Yeah. Basically.
This is not an election budget, spiritual advisor. How did you calculate that?
So
did flesh and blood?
It's looming. Election is looming.
Oh boy.
It's someplace hanging around somewhere. Less than a year away, for sure.
May, I tell you what it is.
But in this country, you must admit that the illustrious protege of Sir Lyndon Pinland, who is
sure, you tell me.
Hubert Alexander Ingram.
Hubert Alexander Ingram.
Right. He says there's only two bases in this country. PLP, FNM. Third party, but not stand a chance.
So where Hubert Ingram was when the BDP was the opposition?
And
where was Hubert Ingram when Loretta Butler Turner was the opposition? All I'm saying to you is, this opposition ain't much of an opposition. We could take that. And if we do well in opposition, who knows? The people will give us an opportunity to be government.
You can imagine the FNAs have like another 40 years to go.
No. See, because we're going to become a coalition of FNAs. It's going to be me and Lincoln and Dr. Minnis and Brandon McCartney, and from the way things look, it might be John Bender and South Abaco. So we're going to put together a cluster of FNAs. And when all us get together, how they could beat us? It's going to be impossible to beat us. And I am actively recruiting FNAs everywhere I go, I tell you. I was inside the mall today. I met an FNA. She pledged to me that she's an FNA. Two of my neighbors are also now FNAs. I met Ms. Idris yesterday. I'm waiting on her. She one step away from becoming an FNA. And spiritual advisor, you sit next to me long enough. You too could become an FNA.
I doubt that.
Yeah? What would you be, an FNM? They ain't letting people be an FNM. They don't want Richard to be an FNM. Who else they don't want to be an FNM? All kind of people they don't want to be FNMs. They don't want Hubert Minnis to be an FNM. And so if you cannot be an FNM, the only other option for you is to be a FNA.
I'm going to stay the color of the blood of Jesus Christ.
Oh, boy.
Which color is that?
Crimson. Crimson.
Red all the way.
Ah, boy.
Red. How ironic. Red all the way. The past tense of read
is red.
Is red.
Wow.
And so we're not talking with the color red as it relates to the Bible. Thanks so much, Sonia. My light-skinned sister, Sonia Dane, sent me a note that the past tense of read
is red.
Is red.
Right.
And so we have red Bibles. Not the color, but we read it.
Right.
From time to time. But a lot of you do have a red Bible in your house and don't even recognize it.
Wow.
It just sits there on the shelf.
But they have an unread Bible.
Gathering, that's deep.
Or a non-read Bible.
And it gathers dust. You pay no attention to it. You don't read it. And you haven't read it.
Wow.
And that's why we're in plenty of problems. And see, when I point these things out, for some, they appreciate. There's a lot of folks who do appreciate the things I point out. And I'm going to point out something today that's going to just blow your mind. Because there are some folks who like to emphasize this law. And the Sabbath. But we're going to look at what Jesus says is the most important commandment in the law. What is the greatest? Out of the 630 laws, Jesus makes a statement about the most important one. We hope you can guess the right one.
Wow.
Yeah, so it is what it is.
Let's take us in the Holy Scripture then. We might as well go straight into Holy Scripture.
Okay,
Right now.
so we go to Mark chapter 12. I think we're going to read from 28 to 34. The greatest commandment, that is it, that's correct. What is the greatest commandment in the law? And this law we're talking about is the old Mosaic law. There were 630 laws thereabout that God gave to Moses, the hands of the children of Israel. And so one of the teachers of the law, note that, these are well-learned people now, one of the teachers of the law came and heard them debating. And there's some of you who believe that there's something wrong with debating. There's absolutely nothing wrong with debating Scripture. It is all over the New Testament. Nothing wrong with debating, so long as it's done in the spirit of love and unity with the objective of getting to the truth. So one of the teachers of the law came and heard them debating. Noticing that Jesus had given them a good answer, he asked them, of all the commandments, which is the most important? And if I ask this to some people, I know I can hear one thing, the Sabbath. But that's all you hear. Sabbath. You got to keep the Sabbath. Now they asked Jesus, of all the commandments, which is the most important? Watch this. The most important one, answered Jesus, is this. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. So there's only one God. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind, and with all your strength. That's the first one. The second is this. Love your neighbor as yourself. There is no commandment greater than these. You heard it? It's in your red Bible. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. That's the first one. The second is this. Love your neighbor as yourself. There is no commandment greater than these. Well said, teacher, the man replied. You're right in saying that God is one, and there's no other but him. There's only one God. Go ahead, producer. To love him with all your heart, with all your understanding, and with all your strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself is more important than all burnt offerings and sacrifices. When Jesus saw that he had answered wisely, he said to him, you are not far from the kingdom of God. And from then on, no one dared ask him any more questions. Let that sink in. This is a very powerful passage. We could spend at least 2 days on this. But there you have it. The word of God is forever and ever blessed. Thank you, producer. Back to you, Leman.
All right, there you have it. So the first thing I must do is love God. And then the second thing I must do
love your neighbor as yourself.
is love my neighbor.
That's a serious thing, you know.
I don't know.
And the question is, though, who is your neighbor? Because a lot of times we believe your neighbor is the person who lives next to you.
Well, who is my neighbor?
But Jesus broadened that. You know who your neighbor is?
Tell me.
Your neighbor is anyone who you come into contact with who has a need.
Wow. Well, that's not like I is the only neighbor I have, because only me one needs something.
That's who your
These other
neighbor
people
really
have all
is.
kind of things. I is the one who needs something. So all of y'all, when you all see your neighbor, please, should you also give your neighbor a free will gift?
Why not?
please feel free to give your neighbor, when you see me, I'm your neighbor, I'm the only person I know that need anything. When you see your neighbor, please feel free to give me a free will, we call it a love offering or a gift?
Gift.
Give me a free will gift because I'm the best neighbor you ever had. Anyway, so spiritual advisor, I want you to know that I'm not talking out of the top of my head. I want you to know that all across the Bahamas, everywhere I go, every single day, the more I move throughout this community, people are in mass wanting to become FNAs. Producer, please put up the photo that I sent you so that the spiritual advisor could see. And then cue my song so we could also lift up the spirit of FNAs on this Good Friday as I show them that all throughout the Commonwealth, people in Grand Bahama have told me that they want to be FNAs. People in Eleuthera have told me that they want to be FNAs. And I'm about to go to Bimini in a couple of days, and I trust that when I get to Bimini, I will be able to recruit just one more bunch of FNAs. And by the time as I am done, spiritual advisor, I'm telling you, we are going to be the opposition. And once we become, see this? What that say, spiritual advisor? Today, what time that is? 4:15, that's now. What did I say? Welcome, text writer, welcome to the FNA, my brother. We appreciate you. And you know what? I feel so inspired.
That should be I''M though.
Q, you don't worry, but y'all let Lincoln get away for 3 years saying he's a coalition of independents and nobody correct that grammatical error. So you're not going to get in my personal chat trying to correct no grammar.
Yeah.
Because you're letting, what the boy name? Lincoln. I don't know how Lincoln could be a coalition of independents and no one at any time come to him and say, Lincoln, the subject and the verb don't really agree. You have to fix this. What's happening here cannot happen. This is an oxymoron and you can't get away with that. So please cue my song up so I could inspire FNAs. Wherever you are today, thank you for being a part of the FNA. Cue my song.
Cause we don't play. Come go this way and vote for the FNA. We are the FNA because we don't play. Come go this way and vote for the FNA. Tell them take the FNM, we ain't one of them. And the PLP is a gangster party. The COI is a party made up by just one guy. So if you wanna go all the way, come go with the FNA.
And so, spiritual advisor, we are the FNA, and you might as well come get on board. How does that sound?
Free National Alliance.
Okay, me, Lincoln, you do tell us what I need.
Free National Alliance. You better find a name for it before Fred Mitchell does. So I can tell you.
Tell Fred Mitchell, watch out. Tell Fred Mitchell, watch out, because you know.
Fred said the COI is a coalition of idiots.
Yeah, but you know, we might want to recruit Fred as well. We can need a good lawyer. So, you never know. But as we begin to catch steam all over this Commonwealth, I'm telling you, if you cannot be an FNM, there's no need to fear. You could just be an FNA. That's what I think will work, spiritual advisor. All right. So I see that there was also a poll done today, yesterday rather. And I want to know, how do you feel about the spiritual advisor? Put in the poll. So there was a poll done yesterday. Prime Minister Davis announced duty cuts on items like cement, eco-friendly appliances, and cleaning products, along with VAT drop of 5% on baby diapers, feminine products, chronic care meds, medical supplies. Do you believe these changes will significantly help reduce the cost of living for Bahamians? Cast your vote below. What I thought was interesting was 69% of the people that answered to this thought the answer was no. Do you share that view? Because I don't. I mean, how could you say that there's a reduction, but 69% of the people say they don't believe that will help Bahamians with the cost of living? And I'm not really sure how they came up with the no, but I thought the poll results was interesting. So the question I have now is the Progressive Liberal Party, you know like how you never do nothing for your wife while she ain't home? Or you never do nothing for your wife that she ain't asked you to do? You know that's a rule, right? Mm-hmm. Only do the things your wife asks you to do. Because anything you do that she didn't ask you to do doesn't count. You know that, right?
Okay.
Are you asking me a question?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
I
so
know
when your wife say, baby, take out the garbage, take out the garbage. When she say, baby, hang this curtain, hang that curtain. Don't sweat up yourself, my brother. Bringing flowers and fruits from the market and bringing her a little rabbit for a pet. Don't bother with that. When Round Day come, you know what she can say?
I didn't ask you to do it.
You never do nothing for me. I ain't asked you to do none of them things.
Yeah.
So you literally only do the things she asks for. And so I'm wondering if that's where the Progressive Liberal Party is finding themselves. Like, did somebody ask them for a reduction on appliances, or did Bahamians ask them for a reduction in feminine products, or did Bahamians ask them for a reduction in diapers? How is it not translating that a government could give out reductions in duty and VAT and taxes, but 69% of the people in a poll say, not really what we had in mind. I think it's kind of weird. I think it is one of those things that maybe the government needs to put its feelers back out, right? Put its people back into the community, and actually don't worry about these little electronic survey. Go and do some paper and pen survey to find out how many houses need feminine products. Who knows? Maybe we have a house full of women that ain't born as women and they don't need feminine products. You never know. How many households need baby diapers? Because, you know, we ain't having too much of them either. And baby milk say where you put me, right? Because we don't have no baby. Who have any baby around here? Certainly not Bahamians. So I don't know. Maybe it is good policy, right? Just in the wrong population. What do you think about that, spiritual advisor?
I don't know. Did they understand the question though? I mean,
What you mean the question was? Please put the question back
simple,
up.
eh?
This question is
62%
basic
say
reading,
no.
writing, and arithmetic. What you talking about? Do you believe these changes will significantly help reduce the cost of living for Bahamians?
Now, did the government explain what they meant by eco-friendly appliances?
They don't need to explain that. The people inside what the place name can explain it to you. When you go in Lowe's in Miami, Lowe's can tell you which set of the appliance is eco-friendly. The government don't need to explain that. What I'm saying to you though, because I actually want to do a show next week. I saw some people in the newspaper talking about how happy they is they ain't have no baby, and I'm telling you, an aging parent is a cross for a child that cares. That's why you need more than one child. Anyway, that's the jingle. We're going to the break. Don't move. We've got more show on the next side of the break. I think we should be having a guest. When we get back, me will be here, or I will be here, and so will the spiritual advisor. We'll be back after this break.
This segment of Freedom March is brought to you by Modernistic Garden and Pet Supply. For top quality dog food, shop online at modernisticgarden.com or visit our Palmdale, Carmichael, and Mullet Marathon locations today.
Welcome back to Freedom March. Thank you for staying with us. Of course, you know already, I am Levan Miller. I don't know what that little slip of the tongue was going to the break. Me will be here. Am I a caveman? Bradley Roll is also with me, the spiritual advisor. Spiritual advisor, let's go to the ad.
Are your dogs hungry and tired of low-quality food? Give them the best at Modernistic. We carry all the top brands. Taste of the Wild, Diamond Naturals, Victor, Anukshuk at the lowest prices in town. If you're on a budget, we've got 50-pound bags starting at just $49. And for limited time, buy any large bag of dog food and get a $10 coupon redeemable on select dog toys and treats. If you can't make it in, shop online at www.modernisticgarden.com and we'll deliver right to your door. Your pet deserves quality. Your wallet deserves savings. Shop in store or shop online today. Hurry. Offer won't last.
Thank you very much, spiritual advisor. And so, like I said, all around the country, everywhere I go, I see these polls. I'm not sure if I know what they mean. I'm not really sure if the people know what these polls means because the information is just kind of blurry to me. I'm not really sure. Out of one side of your mouth, you can say yes that there will be cuts, or the government says that there will be cuts. People ask for cuts, and then they get cuts, and then they say that they don't think that the cuts will benefit them. That's kind of weird to me. So I want to put the poll back up again, just so that you all could see, to make sure it's simple language and that I'm not overreading it. Right? Give me the poll again, producer. PM Davis announced duty cuts on items like cement, eco-friendly appliances, cleaning products, along with VAT drop on baby diapers, feminine products, chronic care, meds, and medical supplies. Do you believe, this is the question now, do you believe these changes will significantly help to reduce the cost of living for Bahamians? Cast your vote below and share your thoughts in the comments. And so one of the things that was interesting to me was that 70% of the people that took this survey said yes. 14% said somewhat. So if we added that number together, 17 and 14 is 10 and 10 is 27, and 3 is 30, and 1 is 31. That's how I do maths. That's still 38% beneath the people that say no. And since I'm not a statistician or a politician, I've invited a politician to come tell me when they sit down around the political table, what do these numbers mean to them? And so he joins me in studio after coming up 28 steps. The Minister of National Security, Wayne Munro. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Levan.
Good to have you again. By the way, I just want to make sure that you know that in the opening part of the show, I've been recruiting. See, I have on, this is my recruitment t-shirt. I'm actively recruiting FNAs, just so that you are aware. So if you hear people call in and want to sign up, don't be alarmed. The movement is growing. But
all right.
But you saw the survey.
Then I listened to it. You want to hear something interesting to start with?
Sure.
The only two possible answers should have been yes or no.
Okay.
Because the question was, will it significantly help?
Right.
So there's no somewhat there.
Because you can't have somewhat significant as well.
Yeah, so it's yes or no.
But even if we add the somewhats to the...
Yeah, so by me, put that on the side.
Okay.
The first thing you ask is, who took this survey? How was the sampling decided? Because it's a very technical thing how you properly sample for representative survey.
Sure.
And then we've done these surveys. It's a matter of, that's a very packed question. Mm-hmm. So is somebody answering, will it significantly help me? Mm-hmm. If the people who are answering, will it significantly help me? If I'm not a woman, I don't have any children. Mm-hmm. None of those help me, eh?
Right. But you might need appliances.
So for your Pookie.
Right. But that's
Pookie is a man. Yeah. Pookie ain't got no appliance. So as far as he's concerned, that will help him.
Correct.
So it's also perception of the people taking the surveys. Now, what that may show is something that when we sit down, we say it all the time. We are making progress.
Sure.
But is it enough? The answer is no, because if it was enough, we could stop. But we're not stopping.
Right.
Can't stop, won't stop.
Okay.
So we reduce it to 5%. on uncooked food, and that was a help. But we reduce it again on other things, and that's a help.
Right.
And if you stick with stable, sensible government, who balance the budget and now have the ability to go further in helping you, we'll help, and we'll help, and we'll help.
Right.
And that's really how it works.
So, at one point I was an tertiary education person. I happen to have this much tertiary education now, right? My training happened to be in sociology. And so they always talk about societies and then micro-societies, right? And so as a whole, the Bahamas is a society. And so you say, what is the general need of Bahamians? A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. Generally speaking, all Bahamians need these things.
Yeah.
But when you break them down into what they call small sub-societies, you will find that the people over here have no value or need for these things over here or these things over here, right? And so my question is it good policy in a bad population?
I can't state
Or is
that.
it the wrong? Okay, so because you can have.
I'll help you with this, right? The customs duty reductions. We made reductions in customs duties from the time we came into office. We've never increased customs duties, right? Some people are suggesting that we did, but we've never increased customs duties. But for the ordinary Bahamian, you could decrease customs duties, but in their minds, they wouldn't see that. To the ordinary person, the fact that the price could have been higher doesn't factor in their calculus.
Okay.
What factors in their calculus is the price actually higher?
Okay.
So in a circumstance in which prices have been escalating across the world, right? The fact that you may do something that may stop the price escalating as much won't be impressive to the individual, because as far as they're concerned, it increased by $1.
Okay.
The fact that the customs reductions in that may have stopped it increasing by $3 is of no significance to them, because as far as they're concerned, the price increased by $1.
I asked your colleague the other day, Zane Lightbourne, right? The government is now bragging about a surplus budget. Personally, I believe it is ambitious. Why? If you've ran deficit budgets for 50 years, right? The safer route to take would be to skew the surplus. Into capital development, right? Because you could get away with that. So you put it into capital projects that you know will either be underfunded or that you will need another budget to complete funding for, which happens all the time in government, rather than to boast about a surplus. Because a surplus will do things like open the door to the kind of criticism that the leader of the opposition is now saying. The government got plenty of money, man. If they owe you, go get your money. And that's not the way budgets work, right? So the way budgets work is we project based on what we anticipate we will receive and the amount of debt that we know we have, that we should be able to pay all of our bills and have some change at the end of this cycle. That's what a budget is.
Well, it basically says I make $100, I spend 80.
Right.
I have a surplus of 20
Right. But
on my expenses.
as a small developing island nation, there's always capital works, there's always new capital projects, there's always expansion, island development.
Let me add that to it.
Why the ambitious route?
No,
That is the short question.
Firstly, everyone used to run on about we're leaving this debt for our children because your debt to GDP ratio is going up and up and up and up. We used to hear that a lot from the opposition in the beginning.
Right.
You don't really hear that anymore. You know why?
Why?
Because it's coming down and down and down and down.
Okay.
It's so you don't shackle your children to debt.
Sure.
At the same time, this concept that it's a surplus but we're not doing anything is misled. We have the most major, ambitious road works program in the Family Islands ever, eh?
Sure.
At the same time.
Which goes back to my question.
So you have that going on now.
Right.
It will continue
Right.
in this surplus budget.
So why forecast a surplus when you could literally say, listen, we have a balanced budget, right? Because capital works, just based on my preliminary understanding of how capital works is every time this man put a baco in the ground, something may happen. There needs to be a work change order or a contingency order, right? And so that could swallow up I'm just saying, why such an ambitious route?
What you would do is you ask the person, how much is this going to cost?
Right.
So, for instance, the Defense Force budget increased by 80-something%, their capital budget.
Okay.
And that's because we say, well, how much is it going to cost to buy the new AD Hannah? X amount of dollars. Now, stuff may change. You could have fluctuating steel prices and that. But a budget is just that, a projection.
Correct.
This is what we have.
Right.
God forbid that there's nothing cataclysmic that affects it, but that is your budget. So remember, we were projecting growth at a certain level, and we exceeded it.
Right.
So the projection is just that, looking at everything, this is what we think it will be. Once the rubber hits the road, you may find out it's well beyond that or well under that.
Right.
But these are the things that we're budgeting. And then it takes discipline to stick to your budget. So, you know, you go out and you shopping, and you go in the grocery store, and you go for 5 items,
Right.
and you're pushing around the trolley. Budgetary discipline would say you put them 5 items in the trolley and you go. Indiscipline will say you pass the ice cream line. And oh, they have sorbet today, so let me get some of that. And then you go down and, oh, I didn't know they had wild caught salmon, so let me have some of that. And then you get to the cash register with not 5 items, but 20 items. So one step is budgeting, and then the next step is discipline.
Right.
And keeping discipline to stick to what you say you're going to do.
Well, budgetary discipline would tell me, don't carry my money with me. And don't carry so fast behind me. That would ultimately change the price of the bill. But how much you buy is equally as bad as what you buy sometimes. Because you could still come up with 5 items, right? But you go on for toilet paper, toothpaste, 1 bar of soap, a toothbrush, deodorant. That's what you're going for. You come out of the store with wild caught salmon, a cup of peaches, a jug of ice cream, because all fans like that, sparkling water, because mommy wants some of that, and you may have come up with the roll of toilet paper. You're still running a deficit. Because those things were essentials, and we got to go back to get them at some point, right? We can't leave them. We need those things. And so again, I'm saying, right?
Not necessarily. It's how you will get them.
This is my point.
Yeah.
And so my point is, I've heard Minister Mitchell say before that he's never concerned about debt in a small island developing nation state, because small islands, they're developing, and development costs money. You could have a surplus budget. I'm almost certain I'm quoting this almost line by line, but then what will it do for development?
Well, I'm fiscal conservative.
Okay.
I believe in discipline.
Yeah.
And that's why my light bill don't go over $200, because I believe in discipline.
Okay.
I don't believe in air conditioning in my house, for instance, so I have personal discipline over some things.
You don't got the air conditioning on?
And my politics is conservative. In the UK, I was a member of the Conservative Party, all right? So you have to also balance that with doing things. So like I said, we have an aggressive capital expenditure set of works. The police getting a new headquarters. They're getting a new fire shed. They're getting over $20 million worth of fire apparatus. They're getting a bunch of stuff. So it's not as if we're not getting the things we need to accomplish that. That's because we have fiscal discipline. That's because we're enforcing taxes. And we introduced the minimum domestic top-up tax, which is the tax on those very rich multinational companies, and so that will add an income base. But we're still doing a whole lot of capital works.
Let's talk about the aggression that you all are taking in the collection of revenue. I see that the side opposite is suggesting that, you know, a free national movement certainly wouldn't take such a draconian levels of measurement with regards to collecting taxes. We know that a couple of people complained earlier about the style in which this government sought to collect revenue, etc., etc. Some people think it's too heavy-handed. Do you believe that that is the best or only way to go about collecting the government's taxes? Or is your position, the numbers speak for themselves, the money is coming in, there is no need to adjust this strategy? Because the side opposite is suggesting that they might take a look at adjusting the aggression that you all have been...
Well, they do. When they came to power, they disbanded a unit whose job it was to collect tax from big business.
Okay.
And the tax and the revenue bases fell. So yes, of course, they align with some people who don't want to pay taxes, who feel the taxes are for the small man. And so yes, they will adopt a policy that benefits their constituency, which is that group of persons. Why should, when we decide they're going to tax real property tax, firstly, if your house under $300,000, you don't pay none.
Right.
So why should somebody who has a $20 million house not pay real property tax? Why should somebody who bought a $20 million house not pay the value-added tax for stamping that, especially since they may have put forward that they invested more than $1 million and got permanent residence? So we've heard a local merchant say they were upset because one of our fine Marines entered their establishment with
a long gun.
With a long gun. And my question is, what was the fall in your business? Because my information is there was no fall in their business. Personally, I don't become afraid when I see the police or the defense force.
Right.
Never did.
Right. I agree.
Never did. In fact, I
agree.
feel a little bit more comfortable.
Indeed.
But that's me personally. I understand how it may upset some people to see law enforcement.
Right.
I do understand that. And whether they should do that, that's I can take it or leave it. I can assure you that the collection wasn't driven by that. And so we read and you see what was happening on the private islands, and you move to address that. Because that was a big, almost you want to call it unregulated and not properly revenue collected area. So yes, we intend to collect tax from the people who owe it.
Okay.
Now the other side don't intend to do that, but then that's not being fiscally
they said they
disciplined.
want to be a bit more gentle. They thought that.
How they say, come bring us our tax, please.
I'm not sure how you be gentle. I'm just.
That's how you do it.
I don't drive their policies. I don't know.
Come bring us
But
some
okay,
tax,
so the question that comes then to my mind is, I told the spiritual advisor before you got here, right? Like, I'm a proponent of never doing anything for your wife unless she asks you, right? This is the analogy. Because the only things that count are the things she's asked for. And the rest of the stuff don't count. In public life, sometimes a party and administration can find themselves doing amazing things, but it not connecting. How is the Progressive Liberal Party ensuring that things like the uptick in revenue generation is connecting? How is the Progressive Liberal Party ensuring that things like the reduction in eco-friendly appliances connecting? Because they're all good policies, fine, no problem. How does the Progressive Liberal Party ensure that the investment in maritime education connect? Because the Prime Minister said in his ad that we want to make sure that opportunity connects with upskilling, right? But how do you ensure? Are you on the ground enough sufficiently to ensure that the linchpin is actually locking in with regards to how your policy and people mesh together?
That's not a true analogy there from this point of view. Some things you do because it's the right thing to do. That should be always why you do what you do. As at Brother Monka's memorial, I said, you need to know why it is you're doing what you're doing.
Right.
If you do not know why it is you're doing what you're doing, you're wasting your time. You're wasting your life.
That's why I don't do it till she asks me.
So once I got into public life, it was because, I old now. I on the other side of the hill now. I got grandchildren now. I soon leave the scene. I have to make sure that this is a better place when I'm gone than when I came, because my parents certainly and their generation made it better than when I came. They didn't go to university. They ensured I went to the UK to university because that's what I wanted to do. So that's the first thing. So leadership is about leading, after all. Now, when you talk about connections, there's a difference in between opportunities connecting. So the maritime example, we know that the cruise ships, the liners, they will take as many Bahamians that are educated to be able to take advantage. So that connects. Where there may be a disconnect is whether, in fact, you want to take advantage of that opportunity.
Are we building the appetite for the opportunity?
I can't force you to. The most that I can do is to create opportunities bearing in mind we're a big island nation of 180,000 square miles. There are these things, so we give you opportunities in the maritime sector, in the agricultural sector, in the fine arts. We now have the fine arts school. In law enforcement, we give you a menu
Yes, but we
to
shape the
choose
culture.
from. No, but we give you a menu to choose
Sure.
from. And there's
What do we do with the 40 years of
but-
culture we've shaped?
No, but there are some people, you could show them a menu, and they don't want nothing off it.
Okay.
And the minority who want nothing from the menu that you're offering,
We building them a new prison.
no, you, they don't necessarily end up there, right?
You know.
No, but it's not that you give up on them, you
Okay.
know. But
'Cause I thought we had
remember
something
now,
for everybody.
no, if you start out with 100 young men,
Okay.
and you provide a menu of opportunity that satisfies 98 of them, that means our job isn't finished
Sure.
until we also find out what will motivate and interest these two.
Okay.
But certainly, we don't design for the two, not worrying about the 98. Common sense would tell you, you spread the menu as people collect it and go. Then who is left? You then
find
get
out.
to engage with them and say, well, why was none of this to your
I
liking?
like my chicken sauteed. You only had fried chicken.
That's
I-
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's how you do it. Will you catch everyone in your first pass? No.
No. So the question then, Minister, that comes to my mind is, in a culture where we've built the lawyer, doctor, Indian chief culture, my Grammy would call it, where everyone has to go and be a nurse, and everyone has to go and be a doctor, and everyone has to go and be a lawyer. Other than that, you're not successful. How do you now convince or tilt the culture appetite for things like seafarers in the maritime industry, for things like, there was a time when if your son told you he wanted to be a swan song dancer or something to that effect, you might throw him off a stage. You could, yeah, you could do that in the church youth group. You don't have to do that for a living. And we see it with the sports, right? Like, I had very, very, very athletic cousins. You could run in your spare time after you go to school to be a lawyer. Fun fact, Wendy Lewis happens to be my cousin, right? I remember when Wendy Lewis's daddy almost faint when she told him she wanted to be an entertainer. Wendy actually went to school to be a doctor, believe it or not. But who could beat her performing now? No one in the world, right? We have a culture that I'm not sure has bought into what it is I see the PLP creating presently. And if you look at Gowan Bo's commentary around the budget, he says that he thought that the National Development Plan should have been played up more in the budget because some of the ambitions undertaken by the Progressive Liberal Party will take a generation to realize. Is the Progressive Liberal Party overly or too ambitiously pushing the blueprint for change in this first 5 years?
Well, the Blueprint for Change says that we will advance the National Development Plan, which was developed during the Christie administration.
Sure.
And if what Garwin is saying is we've not articulated it in terms of the National Development Plan, he may be right.
Sure.
Well, the challenge for him would be show where what we're doing is disconnected from the National Development Plan. So, for instance, we didn't articulate it in terms of the UN development goals either. But a lot of it is directed towards them in terms of sustainability and all of that. The culture that has developed, unfortunately, has been a culture of money.
Okay.
There's a big saying today, things, right?
Things.
That's what favorite people always
Yeah,
say, right?
yeah.
And so sometimes it's developed not to be a nurse, but to be a doctor because it felt that a doctor could get more
Things, yeah.
And to be a lawyer because a lawyer could get more things.
Yes.
I tell people I have a cousin who was in commercial fishing and he make more things than me.
Wow.
When I came out as a lawyer, and to the point that I left to take up this.
He was still making
this.
more money than you?
You know how much
He
you,
needed- he needed that
you know how much you make doing organized lobster fishing,
Yeah, it's quite
red snapper,
Yeah.
grouper.
Yeah.
So the challenge often for a big part of the population is to demonstrate, because some people don't want to work for self-worth, right? For fulfillment, they want to work for things. when some of these young men learn how much you can make being a painter,
Yeah.
they will see that some of them make more than lawyers.
Sure.
When you learn, when the National Youth Guard came out and they went to their job fair, and the private islands told them, just come with your underwear, we will give you everything else, down to your shoes, and we can give you housing, and we can feed you, and we can pay you. And when you come back to Nassau for 2 weeks, you could go work in the hotel too. And we can pay you when you're here on that 2 weeks too. And they need labor after labor after labor.
Right.
So it's one, creating the opportunity. The next challenge is to let it be known.
Right.
And then in our culture, it's to demonstrate how these opportunities
We'll
give you
things.
things.
Yeah. All right, don't go anywhere. I've got the Minister of National Security here. We're chopping at the budget. I've got Shivago Lang's comments on the next side of the break I want him to respond to. I'm Levan Miller. It's 103.5 The Beat FM. This is Freedom March. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to Freedom March. Thank you for staying with us. I'm Levan Miller. In case you want to know what I'm doing, my shirt, it says actively recruiting FNAs. Just for those of you that told me that you couldn't really make it out, get yourself a better TV more than likely. I could see it pretty clear on my monitor. Producer, take me to the clip from Chicago Line. Minister, here's what former Minister of Finance and I guess noted economist Chicago Line had to say with regards to the budget.
Topping news tonight, the Davis administration getting a fact check from the opposition Free National Movement just hours after Prime Minister and Minister of Finance Philip Davis asserted that for the first time in the country's history, there's been a budget surplus. Davis, while making what could potentially be his last budget communication for this term in office, noted that there has been an estimated fiscal surplus of some $75 million. Davis made that revelation as he also touted that government is presenting for the first time a budget with balanced books. Well, former Minister of State for Finance Shavargo Lang says parts of what the nation's chief and finance minister asserted yesterday aren't entirely true. He says Davis is taking credit for something that the opposition actually did over 1 year ago.
I do recall that the Prime Minister said it's the first time that a balanced budget was presented, and that does not appear to be the case because in 98-99 budget and the 99-2000 budgets, Sir William Allen indicated that he was presenting for the second consecutive time a balanced budget. Now, when you look at the numbers in those two budgets, the GFS deficit was about 0.3%, so that's less than 0.5%. And I think that that is what he was referring to as practically, for all intents and purposes, a balanced budget. I do not believe that either of them had an overall surplus, but there was certainly surpluses on the recurrent account. Which really is what you look for in terms of surpluses, because you're not going to get a surplus on the capital account. But the overall budget was, if debatably near zero.
So in layman's terms, right, because my difficulty with economists most times is they speak in a language that only them can understand, right? So somebody broke this down for me in the simplest way I could have. They said, let's just say you have a mortgage and a car note and a credit card, right? And each one of these things have a monthly payment. And you have a salary, right? And of course you have groceries, which you could decide the amount of groceries you want to buy. And of course your bare bill, because you can't ever take that out your budget, right? And you check your salary, and let's just say your salary is $6,000 a month. And so you have a $1,500 mortgage, which leaves you with $4,500. You have a car note for $500, which leaves you with $4,000. You have a credit card payment a month of $1,000, which leaves you with $3,000. You've got a grocery bill of around, let's just say $700. You may be living in a house with 6 people, so it's $100 per person. That leaves you with $2,300. And then you spend $300 on a bare bill every month, right? Your credit card is probably not paid off. Your car note is probably not paid off. Your mortgage is also not paid off, but they're not in arrears. Your grocery is covered, and your bare bill is covered. You could say, right, although you have debt, that I am still operating a budget in the surplus because I've not exhausted all of the credit in my salary. And even if you did some things like I decide I want to take my wife away, or whoever people take away these days, and so you spend $1,000 or $1,500 there, you could still say that even though I did this thing, this development, I have a budget that I'm running in my own personal life with about a $500.
It's a simple way to look at it, in terms of what happens. Mm-hmm. And I must confess it would be a matter for Shavargo to say what year he's talking about.
In 99 and 2000 is what I think.
But the easiest way to look at it is this. Anytime you don't have a balanced budget, mm-hmm. you have a borrowing resolution to borrow money to pay bills.
Correct.
The borrowing resolution on this budget isn't to pay any bills. It's to be able to refinance existing debt.
Explain that in English for us.
Okay, so the simple answer is you have your mortgage, all of that. Mm-hmm. That's existing debt.
Sure.
You're not saying you have a surplus budget and that you paid off your mortgage.
Right.
What you're saying is I'm not borrowing money to pay, to live.
Catch up my mortgage, correct.
To live with the stuff that I will be spending out.
Right.
So if I am running a deficit budget and I'm going to be spending $1,000 more than I make, I got to borrow $1,000.
Right.
And so all of these budgets come with they come with borrowing resolutions if they're deficit, and it's borrowing to finance your spending.
To service that, right.
The borrowing resolution for this budget is simply to permit refinancing of existing debt. So when Dr. Min has borrowed money at a high interest rate, if you're able now to get it at a lower interest rate by refinancing, that will be a borrowing that Parliament must approve. But it's not a borrowing to spend money on anything currently that you're doing.
And
it's a borrowing to refinance.
Those things will yield on the gain side because if the interest reduces.
Yeah. Okay. But at the end of the day, how you can tell with all of the machinations round and round, they can produce the borrowing resolution for that year, and reading it, you will see how it compares to this year.
Okay. So now
that's a simple answer to that.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I economists, they usually have that conversation up there, and I wait till it precipitates. But your ministry, the Ministry of National Security, one of the most stretched ministries to date. You know, there's a new commander of the Defense Force. I'm sure he has a new intent. Of course, the government intent will play into how his intent plays out. There's a new commissioner of police. I'm sure that commander has an intent. Of course, the government's intention will play out to how the commander executes that intention. For what it's worth, I hate saying these things out loud because somehow the universe has them, it appears as though there's been a downturn in crime. For what it is worth. Now I know people will say that if you read the newspaper, every day someone going to jail for rape. And I continue to tell people that if you see it in the newspaper, that means the policing was done, right? Because you can't get a plea deal unless the police did what it was they were supposed to do. Like the police can't stop the rape, but if they police well enough, there should be penalty for the action, right? So those things don't trouble me. But how does this new day in how the budget is being presented and laid out, etc., affecting a ministry like yours, where basically it is the nuts and bolts of whether an administration is re-elected or not? We saw the same thing in Trinidad and Tobago. A government skated out of office because they simply couldn't get crime under control. A new prime minister who's saying, I got the answer. I could just give everybody an automatic weapon, and when the criminals come in your house, you load up your automatic and light them up, right? Ambitious, but let's see what happens for Prime Minister Bazard, right? How does your ministry see this headroom now as a possibility of greater impact, greater movement, greater efforts?
From the change of administration, the PLP has been resolute in what we know we have to do.
Sure.
Crime is a societal issue. Criminals don't drop from the sky well formed. They don't materialize at 15. When you see them starting to come about at 15, that means something has gone horribly wrong, probably over the last 8 years of that young man's life.
Sure.
And so you have to address the underlying cause. You have to address also dealing with it in the now, which means catching people who did it. But we came out aggressively, and we had our 5-pillar plan, which was actually announced by me. At Zhivago Lang invited me to the Public Policy Institute at UB. And for all who say they didn't know what the plan is, it was broadcast.
Right.
It is memorialized. The Prime Minister, who is always a bigger draw than me, also repeated it, and we've been repeating it, and we've been repeating it. And it's not rocket science because it's worked elsewhere.
Okay.
Just like Clear Hold Bill, the current strategy for prevention and detection isn't rocket science because it's been done elsewhere and has been found to work. And so we weren't deterred by all of the cries for short-term silver bullet remedies. We were quite clear that it had to be long-term, sustained, and persistent. And that is what we have done. Prevention. You have to focus on how could somebody 15 decide that they could kill a man?
Yeah.
You have continuing mental health challenges. where a number of offenses arise from that. And then that drives a growing specter of suicide in this country. And so you have to attack the causes of these crimes. And we've been seeking to do that consistently, persistently, all of government together with the society. So I always tell the churches, you know, when people say, what is the church doing? That person who asks you that, he's a heathen. Because if he was not a heathen, he would be a member of a church.
And he would know exactly
he would know what his
doing.
he would know what his church is doing. Because just about every church in this country
touches some
is doing
something.
Society.
Yeah. So
and we're heartened to see that people get it.
Yeah.
The FNMC, even they get it, say their constituency associations are coming together with these prevention programs. So we're pleased to see that everyone understands that it's an all of government, and we have a task force with the necessary ministries, so we're not working in silos, and it's an all of society. And so with that, we've made some headway.
Sure.
The growing crime, though, is car stealing. Pookie them just come and thief your car right from outside your house.
They just somebody on yesterday. I was trying to get it back. Y'all get the people car back, man.
So now you have to, the police, of course, will step up.
Sure.
Because they say, you know, they check their statistics when it's happening between 10 and 2. They do that little thing 10 to 2, and they say, oh, wow, they catching us 10 to 2. They keep moving. They like roaches. Once you turn the light, they keep running. And so the police are turning the light and being predictive. And we're getting them more technology where they can see your face, Pookie, and can be able to find you wherever you go. And so that is happening. And that is the growing criminal trend that the commissioner revealed when I last met with her, and I'm confident that we have police officers who know what technology to ask for and what operations to do. And for the public, stop telling the people where the police have the road checks. If you don't want people with unlicensed, uninsured cars to run into you.
Or unlicensed firearms.
To run into you. Stop warning people where the police road checks are.
So the psychology of crimes of opportunity says that in order for a crime of opportunity to take place, you need the crime triangle to connect, right? You need a valuable asset, a motivated offender, and a less than capable guardian. As long as those three things connect, you have the crime of opportunity triangle, right? I see that there's going to be more recruitment, but there's always more recruitment. We know that the attrition rate is a real thing. Does the budget address disassembling that triangle?
Well, it definitely from the state guardian side, it addresses that. From the personal guardian side, it is a matter for the citizen to seek to protect his property as well, and the police do PSAs to help you with that. But there isn't always recruitment because the force is ran down in 4.5 years for lack of aggressive recruitment, something that we are not permitting to happen. So even before this fairly bad fire season, the former commissioner of police saw fit to up the firefighters that we train. And the current one is continuing that because they can see the need for it. They were acquiring, for instance, fire equipment. We're continuing that. We were installing the CCTV with license plate readers, facial recognition, and AI enabled, and we're continuing that.
These were good. I got some of them out by fish fry.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Jomo is one hell of a guy.
The ministry installed them, eh? But Jomo asked us to put them there.
Indeed.
And then for the defense force, of course, you know, that I had to laugh. I look at social media. You would think people would be happy that the defense force got 4 new 41 feet safe boats, cruising speed 40 knots. Max speed 60 plus knots, could run from here to Inagua on 1 tank of gas.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah. But then someone said, well, what happened to them boat up by the air wing on the airport road?
They're 20 years old.
They're decommissioned.
Yeah, they're 20 years old.
That they are decommissioned. In fact, when we were on the safe put, I asked CDF Moxie, if they ever had anything fast like this. He said, well, they had the Enduring Friendship vessel, which are the same ones that are decommissioned out by the airport.
Right.
Not safe to put in service, but the Americans don't let you sell them. You can only destroy them.
Right.
And so people will always find something to complain about.
Yeah.
And then in the budget, of course, we are going to finally be able to decommission and recommission A.D. Hanna.
A.D. Hanna.
Yeah.
I have to ask this question because my friends are watching, and I can't let you get away because my friends are watching. I've heard the Minister of National Security decry the uptick in insurances for people that want to get out of the service, are out of the service, and there has been an unexplainable, in my view, increase in medical insurance, which both you and I know because of our interaction or proximity to the organization, how much of a deciding factor that is for persons wanting to retire. I can tell you from my own personal life that they are not alone. My medical insurance went up by 40%, I think it was, unexplainably, and all they tell me is a couple of people in the boardroom made this decision, right?
Yeah, they'll tell you something different. But
How are you considering that as minister with the flexibility now?
How we would need to address it, that is what National Health Insurance, that the FNM persuaded first Prime Minister Christie to hold back on 2 terms ago, and then didn't advance in either of their terms. National Health Insurance is really the answer to that, because what the private insurer will say is you're all old. The cost of providing for you all goes through the roof. And by the way, at a certain age, they cut it off altogether.
Correct.
And one would argue that that's at a time when you need it the most.
Right. But we built a plan to add 1.5% of taxes, and that was opposed by the Progressive Liberal Party. I remember I sat close enough to that matter to be aware.
Yeah, but what they say is that as you increase in age, your health deteriorates.
I got that.
The risk deteriorates. The premium is based on your risk.
The risk, right.
Which is why the premium for young people are far lower than for older people.
Right.
And as I say, at a certain age, you can't get coverage at all.
Right.
The answer is NHI.
Minister, I got to let a couple of these people talk to you on the phone because I don't want them to say that I bring you here and buffer you, because I would hate for that to be the thing that they claim. So I'm opening the phone lines, and y'all can talk to the minister because I didn't talk to him long enough. 323-7775, 698-0775. Let's try to keep it succinct. There are a couple of people that I'm sure may want to call him. Producer, let me know when we got the first call on the line. We got a call. Good afternoon, caller. Okay, welcome to Freedom March whenever you get here. Okay, so I've been a long proponent of the separation of the fire services and the police force.
What's your
20 years.
rationale?
My rationalization is prioritization. I mean, I think that commanders command, sure, but every commander's intent has a level of specificity in it. And even if you stay in service long enough from commander to commander, you will see when the commander's intent shifts toward a specific thing. I am of the view that because of the archipelagic culture or nature of the Bahamas, with the assets spread so sparsely across that archipelago, and Pookie them jumping over the cars with their 2-foot and high-powered rifles, a commissioner in earnest that has to focus on crime, the deployment of police assets, the deployment of all of the other issues that her officers may find themselves in from time to time, asking her to also monitor fires may just...
She doesn't monitor fires.
I know that there's a chief of fire, but who does the chief of fire answer to? The commissioner of police.
The chief of fire sends his request to the ministry through the commissioner of police.
Right.
What happens is persons talk about separating it.
Yeah.
So you're talking about creating a silo and an additional bureaucracy. Because right now there's one HR office, one procurement office. The fire chief, Morris, he determined what equipment they need. He requests fire officers who were trained as fire officers. They stay with him. They sleep in their fire stations. If you were to hive it off, finance won't give him any more money for equipment than they do now, won't give him any more money for manpower than they do now, regardless of how loudly he acts, because the minister and finance look at what is happening, and you will now have an added bureaucracy.
Usually you put fire and safety in the office of the Prime Minister then.
Because he needs an HR office. He needs to now replicate a procurement office.
Right.
He needs to replicate the whole bureaucracy that supports the police.
Right.
Now with arson, how do you pass over the arson investigation from that agency to the police?
But they do it in metropolises all over America. You very rarely see
They have
fire.
massive bureaucracies.
All right, let me let these people talk to the minister. Minister, we're going to talk about that in another set, and I promise you, because I feel like this is going to be the brainchild. This is going to be the recreation of the Defense Force if you all could pull this off. Good afternoon, caller. Welcome to Freedom March.
Good afternoon, Mr. Miller.
Hi, how are you?
I'm okay. Good afternoon, Minister.
Afternoon.
And spiritual advisor. Yeah, Mr. Minister, with the budget, there's some allocation for vehicles that are over 20 tons. That's like 40,000 pounds. That's not like a fire engine, a dump truck or a crane.
Heavy trucks, yeah.
But I mean, that's in the budget for the government specifically to get these fire trucks that are desperately needed.
No.
Why not?
What do you mean? Why is it?
Why not? I mean, if it's going to be that low, it's ample time to basically for the government to put just probably about 25 trucks to distribute to all the family islands also.
No, we're purchasing those vehicles, but the reduction isn't for that. The reduction, if you stop and think about the government paying tax on fire trucks, the government pays the tax to who? The government.
Right.
The government, yeah.
But the acquisition of the fire apparatus is something that was started by former Commissioner Fernanda. Former Commissioner Roll acquired some. When former Commissioner Fernanda left, it continued, and the person who was driving it was Chief Superintendent Morris, the fire chief of this country. And they've gone off, they've located over 20 pieces of apparatus. We have it in the budget now to purchase them. And they will start to build them for us, because fire apparatus is built specifically to your specification.
Right. Please let these ones be
Secondly,
saltwater
Mr. Monroe,
compatible. Go on.
Monroe?
Yes.
In that budget, do you have any allocations for like the upgrade of like roads in Nassau?
The Ministry of Works does have budget for that. I know I saw budget relative to Bar Mix, who does the major thoroughfare. That's the publicly owned entities.
Yeah.
And there is budget for roadworks in the family islands. Barmex would deal largely with the public thoroughfares here, and my recollection is that they may contract the smaller road builders, the side road, so to speak.
All right, let's take another phone call. Hello, caller. Welcome to Freedom March.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mr. Miller.
Hey.
Mr. Monroe.
Yes, sir.
Well, Mr. Monroe, it's always good seeing you on TV. I must say you're a very intelligent person. When you answer questions, I really enjoy listening to you when you answer questions. Question for you, Mr. Monroe. Do you think the PLP government have done enough to win the next general election?
That is a question actually for the electorate. What I would say is this: it's a choice. And the choice, by all accounts, if Levan recruit enough people, will be between the PLP, the FNM, the COI, and the FNA.
And the FNA.
And the question for the Bahamian people will be, who do you think will do the better job?
Yeah.
And we have to focus on that, because on the other side, you wouldn't wish to compare what those other fellas did in 4.5 years.
Welcome back to Freedom March. Thank you for staying with us. I'm Levin Miller. Bradley Roll is with me. But we're also joined in this final segment by the Minister of National Security. So, Minister, we got some birthday shout-out. We got to get there. We live our life in fear of these birthday shout-out people, because if we don't put these in...
I know the route.
I wouldn't be able to...
I've been there before.
I live my life in fear of the birthday shout-out people. If we don't put these birthday shout-outs in...
Trust me.
I mightn't be able to walk the streets in New Providence, all right? So let's see if we can get to these birthday shout-outs, and then we'll open the phone lines back up for those of you that have questions for the Minister. Mr. Virgil?
Yeah, so we got some birthdays. Andrew Holder. Good morning, kindly send a happy birthday shout out to my son-in-law. Andrew Holder is coming from his mother-in-law, Ken Ray Simmons. Thank you. You're a special person, because normally mother-in-laws don't do this kind of stuff. You must be a good son-in-law. All the best to you, Andrew Holder. Trinity Boleg, happy birthday to Trinity Boleg on the 2nd of June, which is when?
That's Monday.
Oh. So we're doing a pre-birthday shout out to you. I guess we could do this on Monday. Happy birthday, Trinity Boleg, coming from your entire family, especially Nana. They all love you. Enjoy your 23rd birthday.
And Trinity looked like the blessed Trinity. My goodness.
Trinity looked like she's 15.
No, she looked 23.
Really?
That's, you have old eyes. Take my advice. Take my word for it.
That's pretty
Let
good.
my eye. Remember now, I'm responsible for young women. I know what young women's supposed to look like.
Well. You're praying with them, or you're praying?
I'm Church of God spiritual advisor.
Anyhow, special shout out to Lauren Moxie. Congratulations on graduation from Savannah College of Art and Design in Savannah, Georgia, earning a Bachelor in Fine Arts with a focus in architecture.
Yes, this is my actual cousin.
Right.
You know this in real life.
Really?
Lauren. I remember when Lauren Ma meet her pa. And I literally remember when she was so small, sometimes we used to couldn't find her. She was just so tiny all the time. She was small until she was like 16. And then next thing I know, they tell me that she was going to college, and I said, well, Jesus, I hope we don't lose her there too, because she's just always been so tiny. But look at her. Wow, graduated. This is how you know you're getting old. And she could draw, because, you know, she follows in the family footstep of drawing. Her daddy could draw. She could draw. She certainly didn't get that from this side of the family. Congratulations, Lauren.
All the best to you. Producer, give us a little blast in the past on one of those clips I see circulating on social media. Rich people.
Mr. Monco,
Yes.
have you ever worked on a sanitation truck?
Yeah, man. I
Oh,
was
you
one of
remember
the greatest garbage collector.
Oh, yeah, you remember the bet you had in Black Village when they bet you wouldn't work and you went and worked for 2 months?
2 months? I only jump off the truck when Pendon dissolved the house. I went to fight election. There was nobody who could lift a garbage tin like me.
I was told that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
boy.
used to spin it, and while it is spinning, I run to the truck.
Oh, yeah.
And then the fellow throw it to me, and so forth.
And you were the best corn grinder, too.
Listen, no one in the whole of Black Village could grind like me. You hear me? Once I get to the mill.
Oh, boy, you're the jack of all trades.
Listen to me. If I get to the mill, and it's normally 2 at the mill, yeah. Are you able to grind?
Oh, boy.
I don't think your family was into agriculture.
Yeah, man, my family are farmers, but anyhow, I mean, I can grind corn, but
Well,
I grind my teeth.
try grinding your teeth.
Yeah.
Take good care, my brother.
All right, sir.
God save the Queen. My spiritual advice, why do you laugh at agriculture? You cannot be into agriculture unless you have the strength to grind.
Classic. Wow.
Ah, boy. So, yesterday's spiritual advisor, someone also told me they like my smile. And so I thought I would send a shout out to my original hygienist, right? So I said yesterday, Lawfin Barry Russell, who was the first person that told me, do not get a dentist. Put my picture up so you can see my hygienist. Do not get a dentist to clean your teeth. Dentists do dentist work. If you want somebody to clean your teeth, get yourself a hygienist. That was the first place I heard that piece of advice. I'm very happy that I took that piece. You can put my hygienist up? My producer must not. You know her from somewhere? You have the picture of me and my hygienist? Put me and my hygienist up. Yeah, so there she is, my first hygienist. And now I have a new hygienist because this one backslide. So to my first hygienist who put me on the part of good, what they call it, dental hygiene maintenance or whatever they call it, the fancy stuff. There's plenty money for toothpaste, that's what it is. But she's responsible for it. And now my new hygienist, who I don't have a picture of. But the next time I go, I will be sure to get a picture of it. And I have to give Lofton Barry Russell credit for that piece of advice. So if you like my smile, blame Barry Russell. All right, let's move on. The Minister of National Security is with me, and he's taking calls. So you can feel free to give us a call, 323-7775. Minister, there is a question that I also forgot to ask. People say that it's been, I think, about 12 years now since the police have had a raise. Never before have we seen moonlighting at this level. There's been all sorts of talk about police and corruption and da-da-da-da-da. There's a surplus in the budget. Are we considering a hike in police pay or across the board?
There has been a salary review that will affect all of the armed forces.
Oh, wow. So you say go back and get my uniform, you say? Listen, my squaddies are chiefs.
You 65, yeah?
No, and my squaddies are chiefs, though. So, I need to do the chief fitness. I can't do the other one.
No, you come in and you do the test by age, right?
Yeah, and my squaddies are chiefs. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you should have come out this morning.
Oh, boy.
They wouldn't let you drive the boat, though.
Oh, boy. So there is an anticipated salary review, or the review has already happened?
It's an increase.
Oh, okay.
That should take place.
Any idea so I can know when to go by the mess and check them out?
Nah, I ain't got to do that.
All right, so there is a salary increase expected.
And remember that when we came and we restored increments.
Sure.
And did service-wide promotions.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Are promotions anticipated in this budget cycle?
I don't remember specifically, but I'd be surprised if you go a whole year without them.
Okay, well, boy,
it's just a
that wasn't always surprising. Sometimes, boy, they used to be few and far apart. They used to litter them, like, you know.
It depends. Sometimes with attrition that we're seeing, because today more than ever you have people, they come in and they don't stay in the job.
Mm-hmm.
And when they leave, after so many people leave, you have to fill the ranks.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's take phone calls. Hello, caller. Welcome to Freedom March. Call you there. 323-7775.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, how you doing, sir?
Good.
It's Mr. Farrington.
Cladwell?
Yes, sir.
Hey, Cladwell Farrington.
How you doing?
I'm good. You know Cladwell Farrington, he was the radio operator aboard HMBS Flamingo.
Flamingo, yes.
Hey, Cladwell Farrington.
Yes, sir. I just have some things I want to pass to the minister. I sent a letter to him a couple of weeks back, or a couple of months back, about our monument that we're building in Hatchet Bay, Lutra. I understand he received the letter, but I didn't have a reply from him. But if he'll be generous enough to respond to me, you know.
Okay. My apologies. I would have forwarded that for them to acknowledge receipt and to forward it on to the RBDF. They are coordinating those monuments.
Yes, sir.
Because they came and I assisted them with getting the Anglican Diocese to give some land to let them use some land on Ragged Island,
Mm-hmm.
To deal with one there. And then they, I got the request for the procurement for them to build it.
Yeah, but ours are almost finished. We just having the headstones done. We done paid a $5,000 deposit on a $14,000 bill for the headstones and name wall and plaques.
Okay, the Defense Force has its own capital budget. They manage their own capital budget. I will check with Commodore Moxie.
I was told
for him to take that.
I don't want to call the names, but I was told that Defense Force cannot help us with that. But I sent Mr. Moxie a letter on that also.
Okay.
Seeing that he just get into office.
I will follow up. I will follow up with him. They do have their capital budget, they do take that seminal moment very important as a part of their history. And so I will follow up with Commodore Moxie.
One other point. You know, I wrote the book, and Mr. Miller know about that, course of May 10, 1980, the Flamingo incident. And I've been trying to get that book into the schools and into the training program at the Defense Force Base for the recruits.
Did you send one with your letter? When you send the letter to the minister, you send the book the same time? That would have been a perfect way.
It was the Defense Force who really promote the book, do the book signing and everything.
Okay. You know about the book, Minister?
No.
Okay. So send the minister a copy of the book, Gladwell. That might work well.
Okay.
Yeah. You ain't send my copy yet either. You tell me you was going to send me one. I wasn't going to say that on TV.
I'll make sure I get some come on order. In 2 weeks, I'll make sure you get your book.
Because I can read, you know. I ain't been to SAC, but boy, they can't beat me reading. I'll tell you that much.
I got to make sure you got your book, and you were very helpful to me and bringing me forward on this thing, you know.
I got one more trick to pull out of the hat for you all Flamingo boys, Gladwell. While I got the minister sitting next to me, I can slide a note in his pocket.
Compensation.
Thank you, Gladwell. Let's take another phone call. Good afternoon, caller. Turn your radio down, please. Let's take another call.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Hey.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to the minister.
Afternoon.
I'm very proud of you. You're doing a very good job.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My concern is, sir, I would like to find out now that Mr. Bunker is dead. Now that Mr. Bunker is dead, look like the people in the Bahamas are gonna go down.
That's not clear. Hold on, caller. We can't caller.
I think what the caller is saying is now that Mr. Monk has passed, I think she may be asking who can they go to. I thought you took over the woman.
I don't understand it. I thought I took over the woman them as well. Are you one of the woman them?
I thought you.
Yes, I'm one of the
Well,
woman
if you
them.
are one of the woman them, behold the interim leader of the woman them.
Okay. Well, I want you to take over from Mr. Montar and get a electronic home. Is any change in the Bahamas working?
Who I must get away again?
Well, it's kind of
With
garbage.
the hospital, is the icon working?
I can't understand a word you're
Sorry,
saying.
caller. I really trying to hear you, but I
man.
if you hang up and call back, maybe the line will be
Yes,
better.
yes,
But I
yes.
can't understand you.
Yeah, but you know, it's not an interim thing now. You have to take over the woman dam. And
Right.
You got to take over all the woman dam.
Right.
And you got to have the light to summon the Justice League.
Of course.
Yeah, so
Of course.
there you go.
And from the looks of things, either the Justice League is way good or something, because I ain't lock up. That's all I want to say. Let's take another call. Good afternoon, caller. Welcome to Freedom March. Call
Hi,
you
good afternoon.
That's a good phone. How you doing?
Okay, I'm calling from Grandmama.
Hey, Grandmama.
Yeah, I've worked the local government election January 23rd to be exact, and we haven't been paid as yet.
Well, we've paid.
Is anybody can help us?
Yeah, we've paid a number of persons and everyone who they sent the sign-in sheets for. As far as I'm aware, has been paid. Mr. Harrison Thompson, if you send your information through to him, there are steps that have to be taken for you to be verified as having worked. And once that is done, then they send a request for payment.
But from January?
Well, I don't know if you've been verified as having worked, ma'am. I just know the bureaucracy of getting paid in the government is that you sign in. They then, at the end of the day, collect all of that information. It goes to the HR Department of Parliamentary Registration. They raise the information for those to be paid. Then their finance officer gets those documents and submits a request for payment.
So have you taken all of the steps is the question.
Yes,
Did you sign a form?
I am a civil servant.
No.
So give
you
all the information, but yes, I submitted.
You submitted the form to your whoever
sir.
supervisor?
No.
Okay.
It's
Yes, sir.
whoever is a supervisor
Right.
is supposed to do it. I would suggest that you send your information through to Parliamentary Commissioner Harrison Thompson, and he will be able to address it.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
You're
Minister,
welcome.
there's another question. The wind speaks to me, and sometimes when I hear the wind speak, I have to ask. Parity. There's been a long-standing issue of parity between the armed forces. There's been a long row about how police sergeants had the option for early retirement pay, which I think the number we calculated at some point allows them to have an increased amount of earning beyond their Defense Force counterparts of some maybe $90,000 during the course of their career, I think it is, for the 10 years that they receive the, what do you call it, salary and a half or whatever it is?
Yeah, well, but there's some dispute over that because what happens is when they're re-engaged, I think now they don't get gratuity.
Okay.
If you choose to do the 10 years.
Okay. But I mean, but is that sufficient to offset the disparity, or are we looking at a way to close that gap even tighter to make sure that, you know, the police sergeant and the Defense Force petty officer, junior petty officer that is making...
the first issue with parity is the ranks aren't the same number. The Defense Force Marine who now retires, if you choose to retire early and don't go to 60,
sure.
Then you can take your full pension and go work somewhere else, even for the government, and earn a full salary.
And that's at 55?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's take more phone calls. Phone calls.
Hello.
Call leader. Hey.
Yes, good afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Mr. Monroe, I have a question for you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell me, you're doing all of the road work, and I'm calling from Grand Bahama. Can you tell me, what is Dr. Darwell doing about the eye clinic? Because the whole Bahamas is going blind.
Well, I know that we used to send people to Cuba.
And is any of the machines in the Princess Margaret or the Ron Memorial Hospital, are they working?
Well, I will say this. We used to send people to Cuba, but President Trump...
Nobody is saying nothing about it, too.
Well, I'm trying to
He's
answer
trying to answer you.
now. We used to send people to Cuba for services, but President Trump seems not to want us to deal with Cuba, and so there's an hiatus while we address that. The ambassador for China indicates that the People's Republic of China are going to send some eye doctors here to help Bahamians with surgeries. There are a number of clinics that are up. The challenge I understand Dr. Darwell has in part is to find physicians, so that the People's Republic of China is going to help us. There is some level of service in terms of professionals here in the country. For the moment, the Cuban option is closed down, but I know that Dr. Darwell also has been to Ghana looking for nurses and doctors, and there's just a shortage of medical professionals, and our neighbors to the north recruit them. But I know we have made use of a number of options to address the issue with eye and the need for eye surgery.
Got that, caller?
Yes, but can you tell me, sir, do they have any machines in any of the hospitals working? There isn't everyone who wants to go to Cuba.
So I think what I can commit to do, Minister, I can commit to do.
No, well, I can say that there are equipment with no physicians in some places.
Right.
It's like having a car without a driver.
With no one home that could drive.
And so that's why Cuba was an option. That's why we're grateful to our friends from the People's Republic of China who are about to send some of their doctors here to assist Bahamians with their eye issues.
All right. Thank you very much, caller. So there is a press release here that I must read. Put up the press release for the people. It says, the Friends of Rodney Munker set to join Sir Randall Fox Labor Day 2025 in honor of the legacy of the leader of the woman them. As the 2025 Labor Day approaches, We, the friends of the late Rodney Munker, the self-styled leader of the woman them, recall his spirited and dedicated participation in many Labor Day marches year after year. We recall his untiring efforts to fight for justice in the Bahamas workplace, whether in the taxi cab union, the teachers union, the hotel unions, and how, without hesitation, he joined hands with others such as sanitation workers, bus drivers, construction workers, and healthcare providers. He was always there, ready and able to join in the struggle to raise the banner of the Bahamian worker. We recall his profound and genuine grief when Bahamians were oppressed and aggrieved, whether they were families of murder victims, whether they were neglected and ignored students, or just people callously victimized by overpowering forces. He was born to lead, and he distinguished himself over 50 years of struggle, during which he never shirked from his calling, despite the socio-political handicaps, the impediments, the obstacles, the hurdles, and the setbacks that stood in his path. We would therefore be remiss in expressing our heartfelt appreciation for his efforts if we did not honor him for his untiring efforts in championing the rights and highlighting the plights and causes of Bahamian workers, organized or suffering individually. In touch with the soul, the friends of Rodney Munker. And so we are inviting everybody that's been here to collect free t-shirt to please feel free on Labor Day, that's Friday the 6th of June, to join us on the Labor Day March. Put on your Rodney Munker Freedom t-shirt, that's all you need to put on, and be a part of the woman them as we march in honor of Rodney Munker, who is a champion for labor and has fought for the rights of workers in this country for 50 years.
Except I think they should put on some underwear and some pants with the t-shirt.
The minister say put on underwear too, but minister,
and pants. And some tennis. You tell them just put on a shirt, man.
If you have underwear, see what you can do for us, but make sure put the t-shirt on whenever you come to the march.
And some pants.
Yes,
let's take another phone call. Good afternoon, caller. Welcome to Freedom March. Call you there? Let's take another one. Good afternoon, caller. Welcome to Freedom March.
Good afternoon, Livon, and good afternoon, Minister. Good afternoon, Bradley.
Yes.
Hey, Minister.
Yes, sir.
It's a little scary out here when you're listening. You hear these voice notes with these so-called, I don't know if they're real officers, police officers. It sounds scary, and I was wondering, how do you feel as an attorney when it comes down to a police officer being charged for like serious crime, giving them bail? I know you might be opponent, but everyone deserves is innocent until proven guilty. I listened from months ago. I haven't heard anything yet. I mean, you're the Minister of National Security. You hear anything about the former magistrate judge who was a warrant arrest out for him? Did they ever find him? Did he ever come back? Is he still missing? I'll hang up and listen. Thanks.
Which magistrate?
I think that was the Supreme Court justice. But I think he's been back. That's the only thing that even comes close to it. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure. I wish he had stayed on the line to clear it up for us.
Yeah, but I know that from the time I came back from the UK, police have been put before the court, and I have always been comforted to know that, as you say, the police did the police and lock up some of their own and charge some of their own. And it continues to happen.
Indeed.
Unfortunately or fortunately, the police officers are human beings recruited from amongst us.
And they are part of that micro society where, even though the larger society may be seeing decreases in crime, people in smaller societies may be seeing increases in crime, but it doesn't tell us overall what's happening in the larger society. See, I pay attention in the class. Let's take another phone call. Good afternoon, caller. Welcome to Freedom March.
Hello.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm good.
Mr. Miller, you're doing an awesome job. Also, Mr. Rule. Good afternoon to the minister too as well.
Thank you.
I would like to know if I can get the minister number so I can call him off here.
Well, Rodney used to give it out all the time, 8012182.
Repeat that again, I didn't get it.
8012182.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
If you
Okay,
go back,
thank you so
if
much.
you go back over the shows, he just
No
give that
problem,
out,
Gola.
give
Thank
that
you.
out, give
Well,
that out.
Minister, I think we're almost out of time, so let me give you an opportunity to wrap up your final thoughts. You got about a minute before the jingle starts to play.
Well, we have the budget, and I keep hearing people saying, you know, my cousin Pintard says people ain't feeling it.
That's your cousin?
But
You just own
way off.
You just own all your
the
cousins?
Ragged Island side.
Wow.
But, you know, when you have to tell people their bills are lower, I don't think people get it. When I pay my bill, I can see it's lower, my light bill. When I see that the government has done work where I can buy eggs at a lower price than previously, you don't have to tell me that. When I look around, because I do see the escalation in prices elsewhere, and I see what is done, maybe I live a simple life, but whether you feel it or not means is your bill lower. Whether you feel it or not means are you better off now than after you were just let out of imprisonment in 2021.
All right, well, that's the jingle. That means it's Friday, and if it's Friday, you know the advice is do everything in your power not to kill anybody this weekend. More important than that, make sure nobody don't kill you. If you do those things, we'll see you right back here on Freedom March next week, Monday. I'm Levi Miller, Rodney Road.
If it's the Lord's will, we'll be back.
We'll be back on Monday.